Good evening and welcome. I think tonight, uniquely, we will dispense with our customary practice of starting the meeting 7 minutes late to accommodate the people that are still trying to get through the doors and check in. But thank those of you that are here for coming tonight. If you weren't aware of it, the minimum quorum for an annual town meeting, of which this is one of our two, is 0. So congratulations. You don't have to count tonight. My name is John Miller. I'm the town moderator, and if you did not attend the Springtown meeting, electronic voting with the white clicker that you've been issued tonight might be new to you. More on that in a few minutes, but first, please rise if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And let's have a few moments of silence for a purpose that is meaningful to you. Thank you. First, a few housekeeping matters. Those of you who are especially observant may have noticed a small editing oversight following Article 2 in the Blue Book published warrant. Where the Select Board's recommendation is printed, you'll see the word hold in the Blue Book. It should read instead recommended by a vote of 4-0. This correction will be reiterated when the motion is made. It has no consequence of any legal nature. In recent weeks, you might be aware of concerns expressed by town officials and the general public about the pronounced shortage of citizen volunteers to serve on town boards and committees and commissions. As of today, the list on the town's website shows 35 vacancies on 19 boards, committees, and commissions. So those of you in the hall tonight demonstrate your own recognition of the importance of participating in the town's decisions and its future. Thus, perhaps you, or someone you might know would be interested in expanding your role. You'll find a list on the homepage news section of the website, the town's website, along with information on how to apply for consideration and appointment. I'd also like to acknowledge two new faces on the platform tonight. Allow me to introduce Janelle Austin and Devin Braun, respectively, as our new town council from the Boston firm of KP Law. Welcome. Glad to have you here. And I should also acknowledge that the longtime chair of the Finance Committee has decided to take it easy for a while, Jeffrey Pettengill, and taking his place is Jamie Hsu, who's the new chairperson of the Finance Committee, and all doing a great job. My wife Sharon gave me this. She thought you might all be amused by it. So I'll bring this out occasionally tonight, particularly if I have to compete with people who have not turned off their cell phones. If you are a Mashpee voter, you have in your possession a blue and white clicker. Ta-da-da. How many here have not yet used one of these? Anyone tonight? So for those of you who have not, we have a rehearsal available for you. It's pretty simple, as you can see. When the question is posed and I say vote now, you have 20 seconds to push either yes or no. And you can change it within about 15 or 20 seconds, I believe it is. Just know that the last vote that you make, either yes or no, is the one that will get recorded and counted. So, perhaps we could see the first question. Now that you've had a chance to thoroughly review tonight's warrant, do you expect this town meeting to end before 10 p.m.? Yes or no? Vote now. Thank you. We have 6 pessimists among us. Let's try another one. Mashpee's next regular town meeting happens on May 5th of next year. Do you expect that one to last longer than tonight's? Yes or no? Vote now. We're up to 8 pessimists, so congratulations. Everybody comfortable with it? It's not too complicated. Town Clerk Debbie Kay tells me that we have 150 registered voters in attendance tonight. You may have noticed a few people around holding a colored card or not. That means that they may not be registered voters here, but they are permitted to speak if they are a tax-paying property owner or a department head or someone working for the town who has information that might be beneficial to the audience here. And when you leave tonight, be sure to turn in your blue and white clicker to the nice person at the door with their hands outreached to make sure that we get them all back. They have no value beyond inside this building. And finally, I call your attention to the partial listing of rules of the town meeting that appear on the back of your blue books. Brevity is a virtue, and we encourage everyone adhering to the 4 C's to be concise, civil, constructive, and courteous. So let's begin. And to do that, I would welcome a meeting from Select Board Chair Carol Sherman, a motion rather from Carol Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to dispense with the reading of the annual town meeting warrant articles.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, get your clickers out and vote now. So for your entertainment, well, we have a total. So not surprisingly, that motion passed 76-4. Thank you very much. From time to time, and we could have used this opportunity on that motion too, if it's pretty obvious that there's not going to be debate or contention or discussion on the simpler motions, we might just do it the old-fashioned way and have a voice vote. Because if we did it this time, it would have been quicker than waiting the 42 seconds to get the tally here. But that sort of depends on the motion and the mood that I'm in. All right, moving on to Article number 1, Mr. Whedon.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move the town vote to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant, with the exception of the phrase, "or take any other action relating thereto."
Second.
Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Finance Committee recommends approval of Article 1 by a vote of 7-0.
And Select Board.
The Select Board recommends approval of Article 1 by a vote of 5-0.
Is there any discussion on Article 1? Hearing none, vote now. Article 1 passes, a majority vote required, 143 to 3. Next is Article 2. I'll call on Select Person Wyman Colombo for that, and just by way of a preview, the motion that you will hear verbally differs slightly from the version that's printed in your blue book or in the warrant that was otherwise distributed. As it is read, you'll see it displayed on the screen at the front of the auditorium. Selectman Wyman Colombo.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate and transfer from the Community Preservation Fund undesignated fund balance in accordance with provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 5, the sum of $2,800,000 for the purpose of acquiring the parcel of land located at 475 Nathan Ellis Highway, which parcel is identified by the assessors as parcel 71550, contains 7.1 acres, more or less, and is described in a deed recorded in the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Book 32990, page 158, and all incidental or related costs and expenses, and further to authorize the Select Board to acquire said parcel by purchase, gift, and/or eminent domain for open space and recreation purposes on such terms and conditions as the Select Board deems to be in the best interests of the town, which parcels shall be under the care, custody, and control of the Select Board acting as Parks Commissioners, and to authorize the Select Board to grant a permanent conservation restriction on said parcel as required by the Community Preservation Act, and further to authorize the Select Board and/or Community Preservation Committee or their designees to enter into all agreements and execute any and all instruments on behalf of the town as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate such acquisition as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee.
Second.
Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board recommends approval of this article 4-0.
And Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends approval of Article 2 by a vote of 7 to 0.
Is there any discussion on Article 2?
Oh, yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tom Main, 11 Swain Circle. I speak neither for nor against the article, but I do have questions about the plans for the dwelling on the property. And perhaps the Select Board could answer that, or the Community Preservation Committee could answer. Specifically, I'm curious about the plan for maintenance of that dwelling and whether that has been appropriately budgeted for the future years. Thank you.
Who cares to respond?
Arden is right behind him.
Speaking of the CPC.
Hi, I'm Arden Russell, Sturgis Lane, Chair of the CPC. The use of the building has not been finally determined. The goal of the warrant article is to acquire the parcel and then have community stakeholder input to determine what the best use is for the community. The maintenance of the building in the interim would be minor. The building is in good shape, good condition, and so it would be a minor cost. That really is essentially why we shifted control to the Select Board. They do have a budget that could accommodate any interim maintenance costs until the final decision about how to use that space is determined by the residents of the town.
Well, welcome to town meeting, Ms. Cook.
Never been here before.
In a whole new capacity. So.
Teresa Cook, Angelo's Way. I just had a question. If we put this property into a conservation restriction, how can we also have it for recreation purposes unless it's just passive recreation? I don't believe that can be done if there's a conservation restriction on it. And I had the same question as the gentleman before me about budgeting for taking care of the dwelling that is currently on there. I believe it's 8 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2,700 odd square feet. There were too many questions for me with regard to that. Thank you.
Can anybody add any clarity to those two questions?
So a conservation restriction does not prohibit recreational activities. Nothing that would be programmed there would conflict with the conservation restriction. All CPA use funds must have a conservation. It's a conservation and recreation category. If you look around town, many of our recreational opportunities currently do reside on conservation parcels, including pickleball and dog park, and our Adequan Park Beach and our community park are all activities on current conservation land, so it's not a restricted use.
And I think there was a question about the budget for maintenance.
You know, again, the select board has agreed to put this in their care and custody and will accommodate that. I don't believe nobody in the 4 months that we've been reviewing this really expects there to be much of a maintenance cost.
Come forward. Oh, I didn't see there was a second mic back there, so you go ahead then. Thank you for your courtesy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Ron McCara, 2 Sandview Terrace. I have a number of observations and questions both. One is the current assessment on that property is $918,000. So that generates the question, how much are the taxes that the town is getting now on that property? Because that would be a loss of revenue to the town should we acquire the property. So that's the first question. This property is currently on sale, according to Realtor.com, for $3.2 million. It has been listed for the last 10 days. That generates another question in my mind. Should the town vote to acquire this property for $2.8 million, but some other person or company comes in and bids higher, why wouldn't the current owner, which is a limited liability corporation, take the higher offer? And our offer would be null and void. So that's a question as well. If a private party or company did acquire this property instead of the town, could they then turn it into a resort, an inn, in the future? It has 8 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't if they wanted to make some money on it. And is it currently occupied? That's the third question I have.
Actually, that's the fourth. So your first question had to do with the current assessed value of $918,000. Anybody care to address that?
It has to do with the taxes.
And its tax, the tax revenue consequence. Yeah.
Good evening, Joseph Gibbons, Director of Assessing. With the assessment of $918,600, we're talking about $6,000 in property tax that we'd be foregoing if that property became exempt. That's not counting the CPA tax. And while I'm up here, I just wanted to mention that this property previously sold 4 years ago for $850,000. Thank you.
Next question had to do of the consequence of a better offer from another buyer.
You know, that's out of
Could you pull the mic down?
That's out of our hands. We are going to begin negotiations. Should town meeting approve this, we will begin negotiations with the seller. The seller submitted this application to the town to purchase the parcel. So they are interested in the town purchasing this parcel. And the $2.8 million is a very current appraisal. Every land acquisition made by a municipality needs to have an independent appraisal, and we did do that, and it appraised at $2.8 million.
Next question had to do with whether we could have a resort on that property or something similar.
I'm not the town planner. I'm not going to get in.
When the assessor came over and said that the last sale was for 800 and some odd thousand, then that raises another question in my mind as to why we are going to pay so much more than that for something that 4 years ago sold for under $1 million.
All right, you're dangerously up to 5 questions now, so
The answer to the
Mr.
question
Fidalgo.
about a resort is that that property is owned for single-family residential on 2-acre lots. The acreage is what could be subdivided to 3 house lots, although part of it is a pond. But it could not be a resort because it's a residential zone, not a commercial zoned area.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. David Michael Smith, 2 Maple Street. Mashpee's facing a huge problem with our water. We are directing untold amounts of money towards that end. Spending almost $3 million on a small piece of property for preservation seems, in my opinion, to be the wrong way to direct the town's funds. I personally think that that $3 million could go towards sewering or whatever issues face the town in the near future.
So CPA funds cannot be used for any kind of sewering. There's very specific limitations on CPA funds, open space and recreation, affordable housing, or historic preservation. So the funds are in our bank account, our current CPA account currently, and could not be used for sewering. Additionally, this is a clean water environmental protection initiative. We are taking development potential out of the Johns Pond, which has its environmental challenges. It borders the Childs River, which has had a tremendous amount of restoration work being done to it. This is the mouth of the Childs River leading out of Johns Pond. There are isolated wetlands on the parcel, and there is another additional pond, Flying Squirrel Pond, bordering 151, in addition to rare habitat species that would be protected. So this is an environmental benefit, a clean water benefit that will help to protect our waters without the use of sewering the parcel.
Thank you. Ms. Costanzo.
Maureen Costanzo, River Road. I have a lot of questions on this, so I'm not going to just say all of them right now, but I will say that I am not in favor of this for a number of reasons, and I don't think that there's been enough information that us as townspeople have about the property. And seeing that it was sold 4 years ago and it's the same environmentally sensitive piece, you know, this didn't come up then, and we've been talking about water and clean water and watershed for a long time. So if this property was purchased by the town with the CPC funds for $2.8 million and it allowed more than passive use of recreation, say the beach that now becomes open to everybody in the town with a sticker, you know, is it going to be monitored? Is there going to be additional parking for people to come to enjoy the parcel? I mean, I think there's too many things that haven't been addressed and townspeople notified about or informed about.
Thank you.
So is there an opportunity to indefinitely postpone this article?
That opportunity always exists.
I make a motion to indefinitely postpone it.
Is there a second on a motion to indefinitely postpone Article 2? This is a debatable action. Does anybody care to address the topic?
Definitely postponing the article will eliminate the town's possibility to purchase this parcel. You know, as a previous speaker mentioned, the parcel is for sale. The sellers reached out to the town first to see if we were willing and able to purchase this parcel. If we don't do it now, they will sell the parcel and there will be development on the parcel. We have committed, the select board has committed, the town leaders have committed to workshopping and planning this parcel to determine what is in the community's best interest and what the community wants at that parcel. If a beach is not what they want, they'll have an opportunity to talk about that. If we instead argue about it prior to purchasing the parcel, we're going to lose the opportunity to do anything on that parcel, especially protect John's Pond and the environment.
Any further discussion on the motion to indefinitely postpone?
Mr. Moderator, if I may.
Yes.
So for me, you know, listening to the different positions on this, as Arden has clearly stated, you know, it is an environmental benefit to consider and try to take this into the town's possession. The other factor that I haven't heard mentioned is that the Child River feeds into the Walk-White Bay, and there's been a lot of concern that we're doing a lot for Papaneset watershed, and we're not doing enough on the Walk-White watershed. As we've all heard, there's 4 units with 2 bedrooms, so you're essentially taking the daily load from 8 individuals off of the filtration on that watershed, and that will contribute to the benefit of the Walk-White Bay because of its close proximity to the Child's River that empties into the Walk-White watershed. Thank you.
The gentleman here is at the microphone first. Then we'll go to Ms. Wagan and then others.
Comments on the motion?
On postponement.
Yes, thank you. Dan Kupferman, Tracy Lane. I don't think we should postpone this. This is a great opportunity for the town. We should protect our water, protect our land, and let the town enjoy this beautiful property.
Neil Logan, 3 Starboard Drive, on the subject of the postponement. Yes, it's an obvious rejection of the opportunity, and so yes, I would strongly urge you to vote no.
You would strongly urge what?
I'm planning to vote no on that. Thanks.
Ms. Wagan.
Yes, I concur. I don't think we could postpone this. I have worked in community development for 20 years. I'm the chair of the planning board. This parcel is in our local comprehensive plan to purchase. Opportunities like this do not come around every day. It is vitally important that we vote on this tonight. Thank you.
Further discussion on postponement.
Second.
All right, we will proceed with the vote. So this is a yes or no vote on whether or not to indefinitely postpone the article. It requires only a majority vote. And if you vote yes, it will be indefinitely postponed. If you vote no, it will not be, and then we'll go back to continuing debate on the main article. You may vote now on indefinite postponement. The vote is 35 yes, 122 no, so the motion to indefinitely postpone does not carry. Resuming debate on Article 2.
May I have one more moment?
Yes.
So I understand this parcel is a large, important parcel, but there's a lot of waterfront in Mashpee. So is this going to set a precedent for other larger parcels that are in Mashpee in sensitive areas that the seller says, oh, let me approach the town and see if they'll buy my property?
So again, Mary Wagon, Chair of the Planning Board, there's not a lot of opportunities for purchases like this. I like some of the things that you're bringing up, and I hope that you attend Community Preservation Committee meetings. We are a public body. We're publicly posted. We, on the Planning Board, held extensive meetings on our local comprehensive plan. I hope that you were able to attend those to express those thoughts at that time. We're doing this all in public. What we have heard is that people want to preserve open space for this town to help with our water pollution problem. And this is the time, right now, today, to do that. Vote yes. Thank you.
Next speaker in the rear.
Hi, William Bogan, 3 Starboard Drive. I just want to make the simple observation at this point that while I personally understand that there are many details about this to be filled in, from the use, really particularly, use programming, costs, that there will be costs. As far as I, as an individual homeowner and taxpayer and resident in Mashpee, am concerned that the raw increase in conservation dedicated land is in my own personal best economic interest. In 15 years, that I'll be better off if this passes than if it doesn't. And I'm pretty confident of that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes. Mr. McManus.
Drew McManus, Town of Mashpee Conservation Agent. Far be it from me to downplay the importance of acquiring additional open space, particularly one that has wetlands. But I do have a procedural question in terms of conservation restriction being placed on it. The examples brought up by by Arden of parcels that have conservation restrictions on them, they're not conservation lands. Some of them are land banks, some of them are under the control of the select board. So I would defer to legal counsel to get clarification on that before any vote takes place, because I think that's a very important aspect. Thank you.
Happy to accommodate.
Thank you, through Mr. Moderator. In my opinion, the warrant article in motion as drafted would allow for a permanent conservation restriction on the property if the town decides to acquire it on terms and conditions that the select board deems appropriate. Thank you.
Further discussion.
Yes, Brad King, 41 Cranberry Ave, Mashpee. I'm all for this. It's for conservation land and open space. My only concern about this is when they talk about recreational area. We already have a tough time controlling the town beach from people from other towns, other states coming down. And, it's a full-time job for people. Whether the harbor master's working on it, they do a fine job, or you have gate attendants or the police coming down. If you purpose this for the purpose of conservation only and open space, that's great. But if you're going to make another recreational period, you're going to open up a lot more work for the officials that are already trying to keep the peace on the pond.
Anybody else? Further discussion on Article 2? Yes, sir.
Yes, Ron McCarroll again. I did ask the question earlier, but I didn't receive an answer. Why are we offering so much more? It sold last 4 years ago for $800,000, and now we're saying that we will be paying $2.8 million for that same piece of property.
Here comes your
4
answer.
years later.
Unfortunately, that is the state of the real estate market today. We have a appraisal that values this parcel at $2.8 million. The sellers believe that it could be marketed at $3.2 million. We don't know really what the relationship was of the prior sale, whether that was a market rate sale or not. But we have a very legitimate $2.8 million appraisal, and that is the current value of the parcel.
Mr.
Hearing no
Moderator.
request for further discussion, we will proceed with the vote. This article does require a two-thirds vote, and you may vote now. The vote is 120 yes, 32 no. The motion carries. The article is passed. Article number 3, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move the town vote to approve Article 3 as printed in the warrant, with the exception of the phrase, "or take any other action relating thereto."
Is there a second?
Second.
Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board
good.
approval the Article 3 by a 5-0 vote.
And Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends approval of Article 3 by a vote of 5-0.
Any discussion on Article 3? Hearing none, you may vote now. The article passes by a vote of 144 to 7, majority vote. Article number 4 is by petition. Is the petitioner here? Apparently so.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve McDonald, 30 Watson Drive. I move the town vote to approve Article 4 as printed in a warrant, with the exception of the phrases, "or take any other action relating thereto."
Motion is made and seconded. Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board recommends approval of Article 4 by 4-0.
Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends approval of Article 4 by a vote of 5-1.
And the Planning Board.
After the Planning Board held a public hearing on October 16th, 2024 regarding this matter, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend that town meeting vote to approve Article 4.
Any discussion on Article 4? I guess it speaks for itself. This does require a two-thirds vote, and you may vote now. Article 4 passes by a vote of 131 to 11. And before we adjourn, just briefly, I would be remiss in not acknowledging Terry Cook. She has served this town in more capacities than most people have fingers for, what, 29 years? Is that the right number? Give or take a few months. She retired recently as the head administrative staffer for the town manager's office and the Board of Selectmen. I'm sure there's nobody in the town that does not know her and does not know of the considerable effort and diligence that she applied to every task that she undertook on behalf of the voters of this town. So I wanted to acknowledge and thank Terry for all of those years, and I hope you'll join me. And we'd be honored to have Terry Cook make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening and thank you.
Mr. Moderator, also like to thank Tom Fadala for coming out of retirement to step in the absence of a town planner on the interim. We much appreciate all your years of service as well. Thank you.
Good point. He's been waiting for an excuse to grow a beard.
Is he trying to be